I'm Dr. Reena. I'm working as a lecturer in botany in Government College for Women, Sector 14, Panchkula. My topic is general characters of bryophytes, its classification given by Smith. Now the contents. First of all, I'll give introduction and then general characters of bryophytes. Then I'll explain about the life cycle, and after that affinities of bryophytes with other groups of plants, and then classification. First of all, what is the group Bryophyta? Bryophyta consists of two words, bryon and phyton. Bryon means moss and phyton means plant. This group includes the simplest and the most primitive land plants. They are terrestrial, but they require water to complete their life cycle. So they are also called the amphibians of the plant kingdom. They grow in the moist and shady places, on the sides of ditches, ponds, pools, lakes, etc. But some of the bryophytes, they grow in different habitats, such as aquatic submerged in water. Example for this is Rixia flutans. Some of the species, they grow as epiphytes on the tree trunks, like Dendroceros. Redula protensa grow on the surface of leaves, so called epiphyllous. And even the bryophytes are also present in the deserts. Example is Tortula desertorum. Bryophytes, as I told you, are the amphibians of the plant kingdom. They live on land, but they require water to complete their life cycle. So they have developed certain special features to grow under land environment. They possess root hair-like structures called rhizoids to fix and absorb water from the soil, and their surface of epidermis is coated with a waterproof waxy substance to reduce the loss of water and protect the inner parts from desiccation. They also possess air pores for the gaseous exchange, and they have multicellular sex organs surrounded by sterile jacket, and fertilization takes place in the presence of water. So presence of water is necessary for dehiscence of antheridia, liberation of antherozoids, transfer of antherozoids from antheridia to archegonia, opening of archegonial neck, and movement of antherozoids to the archegonial neck. So when antherozoids reach the archegonia and enter through the neck and reach the egg, and then fertilization take place, antherozoids fuse with the egg to form zygote. So you see that water is required to complete the life cycle. Although they have developed certain features to live on land, so they are called amphibians of the plant kingdom. Now we'll discuss about the general characters of bryophytes. These plants grow in the moist and shady places. We'll discuss the general characters of bryophytes under different headings, like gametophytic plant body, reproduction, sporophyte, young gametophyte. So first of all, we'll discuss about the gametophytic plant body. So dominant plant body is gametophyte, which is haploid and mainly concerned with the formation of gametes. It is independent. Now the plants range from very small microscopic, example for this is zoopsis, to a few 30 to 40 centimeter in length, like Australian Davsonia, which range from 40 to 70 centimeter in length. The plants may be thyloid, dorsiventral symmetry, and in some cases they exist as leafy shoots, but they don't have true root, stem, or leaves, but they have stem like, root like, or leaf like appendages like Funaria. So you can see here the pictures of liverworts, Markensia and Rixia, and this is Funaria, in which the axes possess root like, leaf like appendages, stem like structure, and the root like structure, but true root, stem, and leaves are not present. So you can see the different forms of gametophytes here. These plants are green, they possess chloroplasts, so they have autotrophic mode of nutrition. Roots are completely absent, but they have unicellular or multicellular rhizoids. Vascular tissue is also absent, but few mosses have xylem like hydroids for conduction of water and minerals, and phloem like leptoids for conduction of food. Now, as far as the reproduction is concerned, sexual reproduction is oogamous type. The male sex organs are antheridia and the female sex organs are archegonia. Antheridia are differentiated into main body and stalk, and these antheridia produce biflagellated anthrozoids, and archegonia possess venter and the neck. In the neck there are present neck canal cells, in the venter there are present venter canal cell and egg, and very small stalk is also present. So anthrozoids require water, they are motile, and they enter into the neck, reach the egg, and fuse with the egg to form zygote. Next, sporophyte. So the diploid zygote is the first cell of sporophytic generation. It develops into sporophytic plant body known as sporogonium. The wall of the venter forms calyptra, which gives protective covering to the developing embryo and the sporogonium. Sporogonium is differentiated into foot, seta, and capsule. So here the sporogonium is completely dependent on the gametophyte for water, mineral supply, and all nourishment. Now sporogonium is concerned with the production of spores. Spores are morphologically similar in shape and size, so they are called homosporous. But in Markensia, out of 4 spores produced from spore mother cell, 2 produce male thalli and other 2 produce female thalli. So this means that Markensia shows physiological heterospory. Although morphologically they are similar, but their behavior is different. Young gametophyte. Now the spores which are produced from the sporogonium, they are haploid. These are first cells of gametophytic generation. When these spores fall on the suitable substratum, they germinate to produce gametophytic plant body. So in this way, the life cycle of bryophytes consists of two distinct phases. You can see here how we show the alternation of generation. So in this case, you see that there are two distinct phases, sporophytic phase and the gametophytic phase, or sporophytic generation and the gametophytic generation. First of all, the gametophytic generation or the phase starts with the germination of spores. And gametophytic plant body produce the sex organs Antheridia and Archegonia. Antheridia produce the antherozoids, Archegonium produce egg, and antherozoids and egg fuse to form zygote, and this is called syngamy. So zygote is the first, I can say, the stage in the sporophytic generation, and in this way, the formation of zygote, the sporophytic generation starts. Zygote develop to form sporogonium, which is diploid. Now, sporogonium produce the spore mother cells, which undergo meiosis and produce the spores. So, spore mother cells are diploid, whereas the spores which are formed by the process of meiosis are haploid. Again, the gametophytic generation starts. In this way, you have noticed that the two phases come after the other in alternating manner. The gametophytic phase is followed by a sporophytic phase, and later is followed by gametophytic phase. So occurrence of these two generations, one after the other, in the life cycle is called alternation of generations. The plant bodies of two generations, they differ in form and morphology. Thus, the bryophytes exhibit heteromorphic type of alternation of generations. Heteromorphic, as the name indicates, that these two types of plant bodies, gametophytic and the sporophytic, they look morphologically different. That's why we say that alternation of generations is heterologous or heteromorphic type. Now, next, life cycle. So, life cycle of bryophytes consists of two distinct phases, which I've already discussed: gametophytic generation and sporophytic generation. So, I've already explained you that gametophytic phase starts with the germination of the spore, and when the spores fall on the suitable substratum, they germinate to produce gametophytic plant body, which is independent and thyloid or leafy axis. It develops sex organs, Antheridia and Archegonia. Antheridia produce biflagellate male gametes called antherozoids, which are motile, and the female sex organs, Archegonia, produce female gamete called egg. So after the fertilization of antherozoids and the egg, zygote is produced, and zygote is diploid. Now this is the first cell of sporophytic generation. It is retained within the archegonium and produce embryo, and later on it develops sporophytic plant body, the sporogonium. So sporogonium produce spore mother cells, which are also diploid, which undergo meiosis and produce haploid spores. So in this way, the sporophytic generation ends because The spores are haploid, and these spores then produce gametophytic generation. So, in this way, it's very clear that these two phases alternate with each other. These two generations alternate with each other. And this is called alternation of generation. Now, the affinities of bryophytes with other groups of plants. So, you see that bryophytes have been placed between algae and pteridophytes as they show affinities with aquatic plants like algae on one hand and with the land plants, that is pteridophytes, on the other hand. Now we'll discuss about the similarities between bryophytes and algae. Both are thyloid, have thyloid body, and roots are absent, but rhizoids are present in both of them. Plants possess chloroplasts, so both of them have autotrophic mode of nutrition. The food is reserved in the form of starch. Cell wall is made up of cellulose. Vascular tissue is absent. In both the cases, motile sperms are produced. Dominant phase in the life cycle of both of them, that is Bryophyta and Thallophyta, is gametophyte, and water is required for fertilization. Now we'll discuss about the differences between Thallophyta and Bryophyta. In Thallophyta, the plants are mainly aquatic, but in case of Bryophyta, they are terrestrial and they live on moist and shady places. The plants are unicellular or multicellular filamentous in case of Thallophyta, but in case of Bryophyta, the plants are multicellular thalloid. In case of Thallophyta, rhizoids are either absent or simple type, whereas in Bryophyta, the rhizoids are always present. In case of Thallophyta, the asexual reproduction takes place by the formation of zoospores, planospores, chlamydospores, or hypnospores. But in case of Bryophyta, the asexual reproduction takes place by vegetative method only. Sexual reproduction ranges from isogamy, physiological anisogamy, anisogamy to ogamy in case of Thallophyta, whereas in case of Bryophyta, it is ogamous type. Sex organs are unicellular or multicellular in case of Thallophyta, but they are always multicellular in Bryophyta. Zygote is liberated in Thallophyta, but it is retained in the archegonium in case of Bryophyta. Now the similarities between Bryophyta and Pteridophyta. Thalloid gametophytic plant body of many liverworts resemble gametophyte of ecosystem. In both the cases, Bryophyta and Pteridophyta, the sex organs are multicellular and protected by a sterile jacket. In both the cases, water is required for fertilization, and zygote develops into embryo, and in both the cases, the alternation of generation is heteromorphic type. Now, we discuss the differences between Bryophyta and Pteridophyta. The main plant body is gametophyte in Bryophyta, but it is sporophyte in Pteridophyta. The plant body in Bryophyta is differentiated into true root, stem, and leaf. But in case of Pteridophyta, in Bryophyta is not differentiated into true root, stem, leaf, and in case of Pteridophyta, it is differentiated into true root, stem, and leaf. In Bryophyta, the spores are not produced in definite sporangia, but in case of Pteridophyta, spores are produced in definite sporangia. Now we'll discuss about the classification specifically given by Smith in 1955. G.M. Smith in 1955 divided bryophytes into three classes: Hepaticae, Anthocerote, and Massai. So these are the three classes. Now we'll discuss about the characters of these three classes. First, Hepaticae. The plant body is dorsiventral, has dorsiventral symmetry. Sex organs occur on the dorsal side of the thallus. Rhizoids are one-celled. Chloroplasts don't have pyrenoids on them. Sporogonium does not develop chlorophyll in its jacket. Sporophyte may be simple or differentiated into foot and capsule or into foot, seta, and capsule. It varies from species to species. Sporogenous cells develop from endothecium of the sporogonium. Sporophyte is completely dependent on gametophytes for its nourishment. Now the second class is Anthocerote. These are hornbirds. Gametophyte is thalloid and dorsiventral. And the rhizoids are simple and smooth-walled. Scales are absent. Thallus is homogeneous internally. Chloroplasts have prominent pyrenoids. Sex organs are embedded in the thallus. And sporogenous tissue in the sporogonium is derived from amphithecium. Sporogonium is divided into foot, seta, and capsule. Now the class 3, Massai or the mosses. Here the gametophyte passes through two stages, filamentous, protonema, and erect leafy gametophore. Leaves are persistent and occur spirally on the stem. Basically, these leaves are not the true leaves, but these are leaf-like appendages. And stem is also not true stem, but it is stem-like structure. Rhizoids are multicellular, branch, and have oblique septa. Sporogonium is divided into foot, seta, and capsule. Sporogenous tissue arises from endothecium. So this is all about the classification given by Smith, and this is all about the general characters and the classification of Bryophyta. Thank you. So before that, we'll also discuss the questions. So I've given some questions. What are the main features of Bryophyta? What are the similarities between algae and Bryophyta? Give differences between algae and Bryophyta. How do bryophytes differ from pteridophytes? And write short notes on the following: bryophytes as amphibians of the plant kingdom and alternation of generations. So bryophytes as amphibians of the plant kingdom, you can give about the adaptations to live on land, as well as they require water for dehiscence of antheridium, then movement of antherozoids into the neck, and so that means fertilization require water, presence of water. And you can discuss about the flow chart to explain about the alternation of generations. Next question is: give an account of classification of Bryophyta as given by Smith. Name the largest bryophyte. Australian Davisonia, which I told you. Name the smallest bryophyte. Zoopsis. Aquatic bryophyte. Name the bryophyte which is found in bogs. So this is how you can give the answers to the questions. Thank you.